the oven on before we left. What is
So yeah, it's been a while since we talked. So let's start out the show. Tyler Swope, Chico Crypto, sitting here with Arcane Bear, good friend. Met just about a week ago officially, but I think we're gonna become some pretty good friends in the future. What do you say?
Yeah, allies in this space. We're all working on being educational, informative, and entertaining, and I think that's important. People want that. Mainstream media has been falling out to the wayside, so it's people such as yourself and the others in this space that really work to provide that, that opportunity for people to learn more, because there's not many other people that are doing it. So yeah, I think we are already allies and friends in the space, regardless of if we knew each other or not.
Exactly. I agree. Like, if you look at mainstream media and some of the stuff they talk about on it regarding crypto, it's completely false. People have no idea. They still attribute cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, to darknets. And even like when I was on the plane back from Beijing, I sat next to a couple, and this guy, he wanted to invest, but his wife wouldn't let him because she thought it had to do with money laundering and the dark nets. And then I sat down and explained, like, no, it is not. It's technology, but technology can be used in bad ways, just like a dollar can.
Yeah, that you might lean over, like, you might want to find a new wife, guy. she's already not into it. This is one of the things. You're right. Explaining to people how this works is difficult, because a lot of people, they're predicating their understanding of what digital assets are based off what the mainstream mockingbird press has been telling them.
Yes.
And they're absolutely wrong in their assumptions. The US dollar is the most used black market currency on the planet, and will continue to be for a long time. I think the difficult part is people just don't understand in general how money or economics work at all, and that the black market really will never go anywhere. The only way the black market will go somewhere is if we make it gray, by legalizing or decriminalizing the negative aspects of the criminal culture, which I personally, politically speaking, would provide a lot of value to the community, because as we see just with prohibition against alcohol, all it did was push everything underground. Now those guys need guns, and they're running everything in the dark. And that's where really the seedy criminal behavior comes from. If it wasn't illegal to, say, buy heroin and ruin your own life, those people might have a better chance at actually recovering and becoming functional parts of society. And then there would be no black market. It would just be the gray market. It's like, great, you want to buy something that's really bad for you and shoot it up your arm? Have fun, I guess.
Yeah, as long as you're not hurting anybody, then the law enforcement does not need to get involved.
I absolutely agree, and that's one of the difficult parts, is that because they're predicating that understanding of what the whole Silk Road conversation. Oh, you can buy drugs or guns with this anonymous currency. It's like, well, Bitcoin isn't actually anonymous. One of the reasons people love Bitcoin is because it's a public ledger.
General public ledger.
You can't see who owns that wallet, but we now know that with enough resources, you can track down the people that own those wallets, right? They found Ross Albright. They found the other guy that had stolen money or helped steal money from Mt. Gox. And we know that it's not anonymous anymore, so that conversation should really be thrown out the window, because it is not relevant anymore.
And I mean, with the prison system within the United States and other countries across the world, we could be putting that money towards rehabilitation programs for the people who are affected negatively by drugs, by gambling, by anything,
It's really interesting. I have a friend of mine who's a fantastic Contra or a double bass player. He was addicted to heroin for maybe around six years, hardcore on the streets, nothing, stealing and stuff. And one day he decided he was just going to quit cold turkey. And in about a year from that moment, he was making around $500,000 just playing the double bass by going to different jazz festivals and playing at weddings and stuff like this. So what's interesting is a lot of the people that end up in that situation are extremely creatively talented.
Yes.
To think about how much energy they devote to being addicted to this thing that's not even good for them. If you can have them that focused on something that's good for them or other people, you've got a winner of a human.
Exactly.
Or that drive. So I think the rehabilitation is extremely important because these are some of the most creative people we have on the planet that have fallen prey to their own weaknesses. Like we're all weak, you know, we all have our own strengths. So complementing that by not downplaying the problem. The problem isn't the drug. The problem isn't the drug user. The problem is generally how the society and the environment treats those people. So aside from just the labeling thing, you get to that point where now you can actually be supportive of people when they have come to a hard decision. Like, okay, well, it's probably hard to quit heroin for most people. This guy, he can drop it cold turkey, and he's a rich bass player a year later. Most people don't find that.
Can't have that.
So yeah, so supporting them, you know, it's like, okay, well, there's nothing wrong with these people. They're not bad people, generally speaking. They're in a bad situation, which generally causes them to do more bad things, but they're generally not bad people. You go to any one of their parents and ask them what they remembered, what they were like when they were 5 years old. They were a happy, playful child, I'm sure. Something along the way has created that psychological dilemma.
Yep.
I don't want to digress too far.
Can I hold on 1 second? I have a knock on my door. 1 second.
Yeah.
Be right back.
Let's pause.
All right, I'm back.
Boom.
All right. So let's get into the next question for you, Arcane Bear. Neo, baby. Neo's on fire right now, as you can see. It's holding up very, very strong in this bear market. What do you think? What are your takes on Neo? Are you investing? Are you promoting? What's your take?
Okay, well, check this out. Let's see if this works. I think you're going to get a picture of Neo. Is that true?
Oh, yep, I got
it. See Neo up on your screen? Boom. Okay, so perfect. Here's the chart that I did earlier for Neo today. So for anyone that is already fans of the Bear family, I've been charting Neo since early. I've actually been purchasing Ant shares back here in June when it was only around the $1 mark. And then we sold the top here in the beginning of August. I repurchased back in around this 0.5% mark because I thought there was a lot more momentum into the market. So the question is, where are we going? What do I see coming?
Yep.
Now, what's really interesting is I think Bitcoin is going to consolidate. So now almost everyone in this ecosystem is realizing that you are charting tokens next to Bitcoin. If you're charting, like, for instance, here's Neo next to the US dollar. Neo next to the US dollar, the chart looks fantastic. It's done nothing but up almost the entire time. It's really when we start to realize that Bitcoin is the new wealth storage layer that trading becomes more abstract. So what's perfect here is now that we've been accumulating Neo all the way down near this bottom part where everyone thought it was dead and no one's paying attention to it anymore, down near the 382 and the 286. So for those of you who don't know, this is the Fibonacci extension and retracement tool. It's one of my favorites for charting. But now that we've gotten to this 618 mark, which is this one here between, let's draw this line properly here, between here and here. This area here is extremely important for support. So the fact that we've broken up into this 618 area means we're likely going to test the 786.
Yep.
If we test that, we're going to break out to new all-time highs. So what's been fun is we've been really trying to learn how the tokens are interacting with our wealth storage layer, because Neo's been going up in US dollar terms the whole time.
The entire time.
But what we are having this horse race where if Bitcoin runs and our Neo doesn't take pace, you're almost better getting in and out of these moves. But I think the next few months that strategy will change. Yeah. I think the horse race will likely become a closer race for percentage gains as we move forward. So with that in mind, I suspect that by early, maybe even mid-February, we could see this 2,100,000 Satoshi mark, which would be almost $300, I think, to the 3 million Satoshi mark, which would be around, if you want to take a look, BTC to USD, 0.03. Yeah, around $400 Ethereum, or sorry, Neo is just around the corner. I think that's very possible. The reason being is now that Bitcoin is consolidating, we have all this headroom for Neo to really actually make an all-time high movement against Bitcoin.
Exactly. I actually made a prediction about 3 months ago that Neo would hit $100 by the end of the year. I said before the end of the year. So I said December 31st, and it actually broke 100 on January 2nd, I think. So, fuck, I almost got it.
Yeah, we were close. I was looking at around the $110, $120 mark, so I think we'll see that soon too. The ecosystem really pushed Bitcoin so far, so quickly, that when I was looking at everything in September, October, trying to assess how the next few months would go, I didn't anticipate Bitcoin going to $20,000 before the new year. And that made trading everything almost obsolete.
Yeah, I did not see that coming either. Like, that was baffling. And I agree with you. We're in a consolidation phase. Like, I see Bitcoin hovering in the $12,000 to $14,000 range for the next probably 3-4 weeks before it breaks out.
Yeah, I see the same thing. Probably 2 to 3 weeks, maybe the first or second week of February. We'll see the breakout, and then we get to really find out, do these other tokens pace with Bitcoin in this next move, or they do the same thing? Does Bitcoin run, everything else falls against Bitcoin, and then they turn again? It might almost become like clockwork, because it's been quite consistent. Especially there's just longer moves than we anticipated. I mean, from September at $4,000 Bitcoin till $20,000 Bitcoin, it's like, well, you might as well just sit on Bitcoin and then turn around and buy back in. So we'll get to see over the next few months, do we just stay stable in our portfolio, or do we want to actually try to make those trades back and forth? Because we don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know. And like, one of the things, you sound more of like a day, not like necessarily a day trader, but you trade back and forth between coins.
Well, really what I do is I look for the opportunity to get out. So, for instance, let's I'll share the screen with you one more time here so I can share screen. Boom. So if we look at Neo again, if you look back in my videos, I sold this top perfectly. I sold the top to 1,340,000 Satoshis, and the highest we hit was 1,307,000 Satoshis. So I was right on the money. I called it I almost called it 3 weeks before we got there, where we would go. I sold that top, which is nice, because these are massive runs. When you see runs like that, they're almost unsustainable. And then this consolidation period was the difficult part. Almost every token I looked at consolidated back down to this 236 line. So let's, for instance, use Omisego just as a counter option just for the charting. You see, we had this big run up and then this pullback down to the 236 area. We had it in Civic, in Civic too. We had this big run up in the early part of the year, or in its first move, and then it fell all the way down, not to the 236, but actually broke down and went below that because of all of Bitcoin's momentum. So what's interesting again is that, so I'm not a day trader, but when those swing trades come in like that, so let's go back to, because Neo's one of my favorites for a long-term hold. I have no problem just sitting on it, walking away for 5 years and seeing what happens. So, but what's interesting now is that if we make another big extension over the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks into this 2618 area, I suspect that Bitcoin will likely extend further, and we'll see a retracement back down to where the previous 236 area was. So if we grab a Fibonacci extension tool, bring that down here, the 236 is somewhere around this area too, pretty much where we are today. So if we hit that, we could, if Bitcoin runs, we could fall all the way back down to the 1 million Satoshi mark, potentially.
So
but that's also after going up to $400.
Now that it's basically understood that China's not banning crypto. China's not going to fuck around there.
Oh, no.
So we don't have bad news. So that news is part of the reason it retraced. So,
well, the reason I feel the reason the retracement was in any of these tokens was that heavy is because there's so much upward momentum in Bitcoin that if you're not keeping pace through positive momentum all the time, you're dead in the water, right? And that was difficult. Bitcoin went from $4,000 to $20,000. That's 5 times the value, right? Whereas for Neo to have gone 5 times the value when we hit $50, you're looking at another $250, and those are big moves to make. And when everyone's paying attention to Bitcoin, hardly anyone is looking at any other asset. So this is what we'll get to see next. Is do we see these big extensions that move back into Bitcoin, or does this time the whole ecosystem start to move together? It's kind of
what I'm interested looking at that chart is you see that huge run up. I'm wondering how big our run up is going to be. Is this going to break out like that first big run or the second big run up? The first one's from when it went from $1 to about 12. When it went all the way up to 70, what do you think is the highest we could go?
Well, so there are a few. Let's look at Ethereum, because first off, just kind of take a mental picture of what Neo looks like here, because a lot of I actually don't day trade unless I'm bored and want to win or lose some money for fun. Because if you're good at it, it's like playing. You get excited and you got to stare at the charts for like 24 hours, and you could either make 50% or lose 20. It's like you got to like mix that reward to risk thing. So take a look at Neo and see what happens. See, we have a first big run up, drop back down, and then another massive extension. So this is almost identical to Ethereum. So as I flip over to Ethereum now, the similarities for like pattern recognition. See, we had the first little pump, came back down, and we had this large extension, and then we fell back down to pretty much to where the first wave was down here at the 6 level, and now we see the same thing, that the momentum has pushed us all the way back up to the 618 line, and I think it will likely push us into the new all-time highs because Bitcoin is consolidating. Now the game becomes, is Bitcoin going to move, or is it going to consolidate? Because if it's going to consolidate, everything else has the space to move. If Bitcoin's moving at 100% every month, if Neo can't keep up, everyone's going to run to Bitcoin.
But what I see happening is the consolidation happening, because even the new investors are starting to learn, like Bitcoin is great, yeah, but there are limitations to it because of the proof of work protocol. I think people are going to start to learn about that, and they're going to start transferring their profits from Bitcoin into a lot of altcoins.
Absolutely. I agree with you that momentum will continue throughout the entire ecosystem, but it still becomes, we're in such uncharted territory.
Yes.
To see such, like, this is brilliant. Like the fact that I was able to, with Neo, let's go back to Neo here, sell that top almost to the T. That's unheard of. The only thing we did wrong was buy back in a little too early. We bought back in before we retraced all the way back down to this first wave, because I really like Neo. I think it's going to do well, and I didn't want to miss it just in case it ran anyways, because I'd rather be in and have exposure than not.
So when's the first time you said you bought Neo? Like $1?
It was $1.20 in early June.
Around the same time I got in. I got in at $1.42.
Nice.
But I have a little bit of different strategy. I hate like buying and selling, especially being in the U.S. now that they passed these new tax laws. Anytime you trade any coin for another coin, you have to pay 15%. So I just buy and hold. Like, that's my strategy. I get it in good projects early, and I hold through hell and high waters.
Yeah. What can be useful here, though, is that this is a massive amount of profit. So I actually sold the first top on here, too. I wasn't yet doing my show in the beginning of, in May area, June. I hadn't started my show not till the beginning of July is when I started the show. So I actually sold this top, rebought back in, and then caught the second run almost perfectly and sold that top. What's nice here is that even though I didn't buy back in all the way down here at the 236 area, I was still able to pull in another 50% more Neo from that massive rise, and that's from 300% of that. So it's another 150% basically that you got to keep.
That's awesome.
So. But you're right. I like what Brandon Kelly said. It's like, well, if you do want to take those trades, don't be scared by the tax man. Just write that shit down. Write that shit down and take those profits, because it's not a bad thing to like fill your coffers while you can. You know, this type of volatility is so fresh. We don't know how long it will last.
Exactly. And I mean, I've thought about it. I've thought about trying to sell some of my Neo at highs, but I'm comfortable where I'm at. I have my gas. It's making me like $3,000 a month right now. And
Perfect. I've never done the gas thing. I should probably try that out.
Oh, God, you need to start getting yours in. Yeah, dude, the gas is where it's at, man. Get a ledger, hook it up.
I have a ledger.
Oh, well, they can get your Neo on your ledger.
What am I not doing right here? Jeez. I'll make a video about it. Apparently I did something wrong. We'll figure it out.
No, it's pretty easy. You just one click of a button, claim your gas.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Perhaps it's because I hate updating firmware and re-entering seed phrases. I'm probably
every couple weeks. Which sucks.
Yeah, right?
So
really, I didn't know that helpful insight, especially with Ledger and Neo to be able to work together like that. Extremely important.
It's so cool when you get your Ledger going. It says "Wake up, Neo." Like,
oh yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Brilliant.
So the Neo ecosystem is growing, and the one thing I like about the projects on Neo is they're not scammy like Ethereum. Ethereum definitely has good projects on there, but then they're also just swarmed with shit projects, complete money grabs. And Neo doesn't have that because there's the requirement for an ICO to start. They have to pay a 500 gas fee. So what do you think about that? What do you think about the ecosystem growing with Neo?
Well, I heard Red Pulse did quite well off their token launch, and they function on the Neo chain. There's one other, I forget the name, that came out recently.
Q-Link?
Yeah, and they did quite well too.
Well.
So what's nice is that you start to spread that out. I mean, no one's going to be prone to scams or fraud or piss poor company projects. No one's ever secure from that. That's one of the reasons why I think deregulation is important. Is because the only way you're secure, there's a quote. It's like, you can't patch stupid. And that's basically what regulation is trying to do. They're trying to think of all the things that dumb people will do and save them from doing that. Well, I think that's nice. What they're also doing is curbing the learning process of those dumb people to make mistakes, fail, and then learn from that mistake or failure and not do it again. So what I'm insinuating is that if you're dumb enough to buy into a Ponzi scheme, and that's your fault, you should learn from that experience because it's costly, right? If you buy a ledger from someone that you met on the street, that could be costly. The lessons that we learn can be extremely costly. People go to school and spend tens of thousands of dollars on an education, which is a very costly learning experience. So if you can in any way mitigate the risk, don't take those upfront costs. Do your due diligence. And I think what Neo is doing there by incorporating some type of standard for these tokens to go on will help weed out a little bit. But at the same point, that's not that much money still. And if you were looking to do something and you have even a good idea, it might be that you have a great idea, but will you succeed? Can you implement a team that can succeed after you if you can't pull it off? So even though they may not be a direct scam coin, they may not be successful companies, because being a successful company is not easy.
No, it is not easy. It's not easy. I mean, I'm sure building Arcane Bear, you've had your trials and tribulations throughout it all.
Yeah, to get to this point too, this isn't my first company. I already had a successful two companies before this one. I mean, really, Arcane Bear was supposed to be a pet project. What I didn't realize, because I love doing this, like what we're doing right now, having a conversation, jetting ideas back and forth. I was like, oh, cool. I can afford to do whatever I want in my life, and this is what I want to do. I want to talk with brilliant people about stuff I'm interested in, so I just started doing it. But what I didn't anticipate was how much momentum would happen. So I wrote the white paper originally for Arcane Bear in November of 2016, 16, right? So about 9 months before the ecosystem was doing it, Bitcoin was at $250. I started talking about papaya and sugarcane and showing people around the property on my YouTube channel. It hadn't really got into, like, if you go to the beginning of my YouTube channel, I'm telling you the use cases of pineapple, and I'm showing you different like ayahuasca in the jungle and stuff, you know. So it's a very eclectic media source is what I'm aiming at. But to have this opportunity is probably one of the most inspiring things I've seen to date, because it gives us a glimpse of a new possibility of what we can do in the future. The outlook that we had with the old legacy system was bleak and grim. We were not headed in a good direction, and we were looking towards a Mad Max scenario, it felt like. If we can implement properly and build the network of community and implement with each other, whether it's going down to your own cafe and getting them to accept Litecoin just with you, whatever it might be, this is how we grow outside of the governments and banks, is by creating the momentum ourselves. Look, and this is the really interesting part too, is that money is, you get to pick the brand. If people want to pay me in NEO, I will gladly accept that. I would probably say no to BCH and tell you to only, and this is the interesting thing, it's because I don't like Roger Ver.
I hate Roger Ver too. He's a piece of crap.
Right. I don't care how good your technology is, or if it has the same Bitcoin, or you think it follows the Satoshi white paper. If you come out and screw with the rest of the community by what you think is right, you've missed the whole point. This is a community project, and the community will decide what they want to use, and they can use anything. It's their choice to pick the brand that they want.
Whether so, if Bitcoin Cash is better than Bitcoin, guess what? It will eventually outgrow it, but don't force it down people's throats. And that's
it's not the case that it will outgrow it. Look, Betamax is better than VHS, but people picked the brand they want. So Bcash might be a Betamax. Oh, it's a better technology, but people don't care about technology. The individual humans care about things that make them feel better. Yeah, right? So if you're going out there and being like, oh, this is following the original Satoshi white paper, but you screwed over the rest of the community. Everyone that's bought into Bitcoin afterwards now that doesn't get free Bcash, how are you including them? How is that beneficial for the whole community? All he did was create contention in the entire ecosystem, and it was bad for everyone.
Instead of working with the Bitcoin core developers, he could have worked with them, and they could have came up with a solution to put on Bitcoin. But guess what? He didn't. He split the community, and now unfortunately I was in China, and I got to see Jihan Wu, and Jihan Wu is a huge supporter of Bitcoin Cash too. He's a
let's get this straight. First off, nothing against Roger Ver either. I know that he's probably from his heart trying to do what he thinks is the best for everyone. But therein lies the problem. He's not the genius know-it-all that he thinks he is. Everyone around the world, we can come to a better consensus than he can. And that's the problem. He thinks that he knows better than everyone else. And that's not the case. If he knew better than everyone else, well, then we'd live in a completely different society. And I think that's one of the failing points, is that he is a spokesperson for Bitcoin Cash. And when you go out and you tell everyone they have to call it Bitcoin Cash, I want to call it Bcash, because you know what? I can call Delta Airlines whatever the hell I want to call it. They have no right to tell me what I want to call it. Like, this is not how the game works. So I think Roger Ver has really misunderstood social economy and understanding the importance of being a human being that is can interpret and communicate properly with people. If they want to call it Bcash, the community will decide what your company is branded as, not you.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of crypto, is it is a community. There's not one, Bitcoin, there's not one person who controls Bitcoin. It is controlled by the users and the miners, and that's the beauty of it. And when you have a single person like Roger Ver, Jihan Wu, them pulling the strings with Bitcoin Cash, that's where I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
I saw, I don't know if any of you have seen this the other day, but I saw something. So I've been a big fan of the Pirate Bay. I think you can see my screen. It's a place where you can get hacked stuff. So when I was younger, I couldn't afford anything. So I'd always download the hacked versions of Ableton or Final Cut Pro. Anyways, point of that is if you go down here, look, they accept Bitcoin. They accept the BTC on SegWit. Here's their SegWit address. They have Litecoin, Monero, and then look, Bcash, lol, Bcash.
Exactly.
And this website gets millions of views a day. And this is the funny thing too. I really wish Roger Ver would go out of his way to try to communicate with more people. I have multiple times tried to communicate with him, and there again lies the problem. This is a businessman that thinks he knows better than everyone else, and that is a failing business model, because your community is your power, because they are who use your product and service. Without them, your product is nothing.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm glad we have similar thoughts. I hate Bitcoin Cash. I mean, I literally think it's a money grab. It's a total try to take control of Bitcoin for themselves, which I think Roger Ver, Jihan Wu, they really, really want to do. I mean,
yeah, I don't think it was personally malevolent. It could have been, it was obviously in their benefit to do so financially, but I believe that they had what they thought the community's best interest in mind. I don't think they were right. I think they vastly misunderstood who the community is or how they're invested, right? And that's the important part is not all the community can vote or has the say. So if you come out there and you're trying to be the spokesperson for everyone, you make yourself look like an arrogant asshole. Because I'll be the first to tell you, I have absolutely no idea what other people think. I don't even know what I think a good chunk of the time. I'm learning, and that's not what he came out to say. He came out to tell us that he knew better than the rest of us, and that is a failing business plan, because the community is always, the customer is always right, right? So don't tell us we can't call it Bcash. I'll call it whatever the hell I want.
And the community will decide on the name, and if the community overpowers Roger Ver and the three guys who control Bitcoin Cash, then it should be called Bcash.
Yes, I agree. So on a lighter note, I love accepting Neo. We've worked on a few projects now where we do that. I bought a truck and actually paid in Bitcoin. I've done that a bunch of times now, where we pay either employees or freelance workers in digital assets. And this is how you create the ecosystem. They can ask for whatever they want. They could tell me they wanted it in Litecoin or in Monero. I don't care. I really don't care. What I'm excited about is the fact that people are interested in doing this type of peer-to-peer transaction, and I don't think Bitcoin Cash is going to be the winner. I've said it multiple times. I think it's a really big scam to try and say that this is the new Bitcoin, or these are the Ethereum killers. Anytime you hear talk like that, like, oh, this product's going to destroy that product, be very noted, because that is likely bullshit.
You've heard of Electronium, I'm sure.
Yes. I don't know too much about their project, though.
It's a Monero clone, and they say it's a Monero killer. It's basically going to bring crypto to the masses, and it's a bunch of bullshit. I've called it out on my channel more than a few times. Like, fuck that scam. Please don't invest. And people argue with me.
What's interesting is that it's not really necessarily the technology either.
Let's use the MP3 for example, right? The MP3 came out long before we had these cool MP3 players. So you could put MP3s on a disc, or you could play them from your computer. It wasn't really till Apple realized that the gap in the niche was the device that allowed this to function more easily, and that business model is really what rocketed the move from discs and vinyl and tapes. We still had vinyl tapes and discs all kind of working at the same time. I was DJing back when I was 18 years old, and I remember using vinyl records. This is not that long ago to go from vinyl records and tapes. I used to have a tape player, right? Most kids won't remember that, and this is what's crazy, is that the way technology moves isn't based upon the technology. It's based upon the people that build the business plans that make that technology adaptable and usable by most people. Because most people don't care. Most people aren't going to care that Bitcoin is slower by even a day or two than anything else, because they're used to systems that already take that long. They're like, oh great, what's an Interact transfer? It's like, oh, well, it's 3 days, 5%. You're like, well, it's the same right?
And I don't have to pay
fees and all this stuff. These are already significantly better options on whatever you want to use. Even with Bitcoin being slow and kind of arduous, it adds to the reason to save it, to not spend it. It reduces the supply and it increases the demand, and price volatility moves up. It's in your benefit to want to save. It's almost like a self-directed savings account because it incentivizes you to move it. It's slower. Don't move it. It costs more. Good. Another reason not to move it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I agree.
And that's a positive thing. It incentivizes you to stake your holdings, just like getting gas for NEO. Well, if I hold it, it's going to be worth more. Then that's why people do that. And that's important. I think that is actually a reason that turns not to Bitcoin from being the peer-to-peer cash to Bitcoin being a peer-to-peer money. And they are very different. If you look up what money is next to currency, they have very different qualities. And this is one of those economics things most people don't understand. Money is meant to be a store of value. Even if it's volatile and it's going up, it's a slower, like you're not going to shave off little pieces of gold to pay for your coffee. It's just not sustainable. Right, so this is what we do. You use your wealth storage layer, which is likely Bitcoin, and these other faster, cheaper, instantaneous currency layers and payment layers to function. Right, it's like, okay, well, great, I need to take out $100,000 from my Bitcoin assets and move it into Litecoin. It's like, well, then there's the ecosystem already functioning
as it should be. Like, I've always compared Bitcoin to the digital gold. That's what it is, and even from when I first got in 2013, that's what I saw it as digital gold. It's literally a store of value.
Absolutely.
I mean, even I think Satoshi, in his right mind, he knew that this would happen once it got this big, and there would need to be other projects, other side chains, other layers that provide the function of cash, because once the miners, outweigh the users, you're definitely going to have a fight between them, and you're definitely going to have higher transaction fees, because guess what? Miners like money.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think Bitcoin has something very special going for it, and I just don't think it's what they originally intended it to do. But most great experiments on the planet don't start off the way they intended it to. They come up with a brilliant idea that ends up applicable for something totally different. And that's almost how every great invention has gone. And I think that's why Bitcoin has done so well, is even though its original intention was supposed to be a peer-to-peer currency, it ended up way more valuable, and it's ended up a peer-to-peer money. And I would rather keep it a money. I would rather have it slow. I would rather have it cost more, because it is significantly better than the banking system. At large, it is better than the banking system in every way, shape, or form. Even if it's slower and costs more, it's almost impossible to kind of recognize how much money the bank has stolen from you over the course of your life. To say, well, $100 transaction fee, it's like, what about inflation? What about the bank fees that you've spent for the last 30 years of your life to save your money at $3 every time you take cash out here, or $5, 2% on your transaction there? You have been drained from the financial system, and Bitcoin's, even if it costs, and I've never paid an exorbitant fee. I think most fees I've spent are like $15 with Bitcoin, and the longest I've waited, I think, is 4 hours. That is unparalleled in speed and efficacy in compared to how crap the old legacy system is, because people aren't considering the redundant expenses that they've gotten to buy their coffee today with their Visa. You have spent thousands and thousands of dollars to do that today, and it's you keep getting charged and drained over and over and over. It's endless, So it's to the detriment of the whole ecosystem.
In my opinion, in the future, Bitcoin is going to be used not for small amounts of money. It's not going to be used to pay for a fucking coffee. It's going to be used to transfer millions of dollars from this guy to this guy.
Yep. It might even be global cross-country remittances for massive economic, massive economic movements. It could be, you could potentially be buying countries with Bitcoin, because what we have to remember is there's only 21 million of these damn things. There's no way every millionaire could have a Bitcoin. It's not not mathematically feasible. So the idea comes, where do we end up in this ecosystem? And if we are correct that this over the long term is actually a hyperinflationary event for the US dollar, Bitcoin could become worth an unimaginable amount of money. Because in 1923, when we saw gold, the price of the German mark, from 1919 to 1923, went 1 gram of gold to 1 German mark. We went from 1 gram of gold to 1 trillion German marks. So it's like, well, what could Bitcoin's price be at? It's unfathomable because paper dollars are worthless when they've printed them into oblivion over the course of the last, 60 years, or at least 30 years. Sorry, 1960 to 2017, so it's around 30, 40 years of massive money printing.
No, it's massive money drain. And I have a feeling that we're going to see more and more businesses, more and more people, more and more development within the whole entire crypto ecosystem in the next year. I think we're going to have a massive, like I see this consolidation for the next 3 weeks, and then we're going to have a boom. I have a feeling it's going to happen. People are going to be getting their tax dollars, especially here in the United States. And guess where all that money's going? Going into crypto.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I agree with you too. I think the entire ecosystem over the next 2 years we are already currently witnessing history take place as we speak. I bet you we have already seen the birth of some of the new Fortune 500 companies, and I hope you guys own some of them because they are there. Companies like Populous, they're massive in the factoring and invoicing sector, and it's a $1 billion industry. Companies like AdBank and AdX, these are $1 billion advertising industries that deeply need the blockchain to help restructure fraud and all these problems with lack of transparency and middlemen, almost like every other industry. So the growth here that we'll have will be akin to the early 1990s, that the new Fortune 500 companies are starting right now, and they will be, sure, we'll have a big run up and some of them will crash and they'll be worth nothing. But if all you need is 1 or 2 of those out of 10 and you are set generally. It would have been like buying.
So what do you think are a few of those for my viewers? I definitely am a fan of Bitcoin, number 1, Ethereum, number 2, Neo, number 3, and I have Icon on my radar.
Yes, Icon is a great token. I'm currently not invested in it, but I would. I just am taking a much more peaceful approach to my portfolio building because we're working on huge stuff here in the background with the Arcane Bear that really gets no eyesight yet, but it takes up the majority of my time building those business proposals and doing all the communications and onboarding advisors and team members and da-da-da-da-da. So I think Icon will do really well, but let's lay it out. My portfolio is around 40% Bitcoin. I'm pretty equally weighted to Neo, Ethereum, and Litecoin. I think they'll all be extremely successful. Then Populous, Veritasium are I think 2 huge shotgun blast winners. I mean, I've owned Populous since $2. It's up at $50 right now. Veritasium, we were buying at 50. It's at 400 now. And I think Veritasium could be massive if Veritasium is implemented properly and they pull off their roadmaps. Bitcoin, you could see a price relationship almost equivalent to Bitcoin because we're talking billions of dollars of movement on a daily basis through something like Veritasium if it takes that spot. Some of my more speculative ideas, I think Cardano, ADA is one of my speculative, I've got some cash there just to see what happens. Salt is a good speculation. Same with Steam. I'm actually, for those of you that are new to the crypto space, I think Steemit is perfect for the beginner person because it does 2 things. It consistently surrounds you with a new group of people that are focused on the digital asset space. And it's also a way that you can earn a few dollars or more. I made a post the other day, like if you send me this video when it's done, I'll post it. It will likely make me $50 that I can transfer directly into Bitcoin 7 days later, right? And that's cool. You can write content sharing pictures of your cat, and maybe it makes you a few dollars. Maybe it's $10, but you can buy maybe some icon with that $10, right? So it's a way to get your feet wet without actually having any money and educating yourself, because there's a lot of people like myself or Omar from Crypto News, Box Mining, all the guys that are on YouTube are also posting on Steemit, so you can find their content in these different areas, and you can start to see how this new ecosystem will evolve. So I think Steemit is a really cool speculation. I've held Steem since it was 10 cents, and it's at $8. Yep. That's huge. Like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, I don't even want to speculate. I'm not even going to speculate because numbers are unimportant on that idea. But if you were writing a year ago on Steem at 10 cents, you got paid $100 in Steem. Okay, well, you're looking at almost almost 10 grand from
just
that
from
single
a single
investment.
Article. You get
You know, it's crazy. I think my highest paying article today with Steem is $5,000 into digital assets.
Damn, unfortunately, I haven't been able to get into Steem because my old laptop, when I was first writing on Steem about 4 months ago, I held all my Neo on, and that back then the Neo was only worth $5,000, so I didn't care. But once it got up to like $50,000, I was like, oh shit, I need to just shut this laptop off until I get a ledger, and that's what I did. So finally, I got a ledger and I'm able to transfer it. So now I've been writing on Steem again.
Great. Yeah, you know, I think, again, I just want to reiterate that idea is that Steemit is great for people that have no initial investment to make. Like, if you're like, oh, I want to just put $50 here, $60 there. It's like, man, sign up for Steemit and educate yourself at the same time as learning how to create. Because look, you're already going to post on Facebook. Everything you post on Facebook or Instagram, post it on Steemit, and by the end of the month, you'll probably have made yourself at least $1,000 if you do a good job.
Yep, exactly.
It's free. It's free money, and it's one of the reasons why we're not in a bubble. This is not a bubble, because if I can keep adding money to Bitcoin, we're not even close to popping.
Exactly. So what do you think about the speculation of the investments coming in? Like, a lot of people say we're in a speculative bubble, but where do you think that will be when it does? Because eventually we are going to have a crash like the 90s. I mean, it's just a pattern that happens in human history. I
don't think we'll ever have a crash in Bitcoin. I think we'll have a correction, just like we saw from $20,000 to $12,000. But I don't think we are in a bubble, and I don't think we've already proved that. Bubbles pop and they fall forever. When we went from $90 to $13,000 and then back down to $200 and rode $200, that alone proved that we can never be in a bubble in Bitcoin because it survived. If it died there, that was a bubble. It didn't die. And it's gone even higher. We're not in a bubble ecosystem. We're in an ecosystem here that is going to grow. So if you think that this is a speculation, you have not done your homework. This is a value investment for the long term, because you realize that if you saw the internet in 1990 and you're like, oh, this is good, this is just a bubble. It's like, I don't care what company if you throw $1,000 in every single company from the early or the top 10 companies in the internet sphere from the early 1990s, you would have done really well if you sold, right? That's all you got to watch out for. We are at the very beginning of this, and I think when Bitcoin's maybe at around $100,000, $1 million of Bitcoin, then you'll look to see corrections that like break people's jaws. So if we go to $60,000 and drop to 34 or 35,000 and do another 40% retracement, you have all these new eyes that have never gone through that volatility, and their stomachs will be turning and they'll be throwing up.
Some people may be going.
And that's just the start. We haven't even started yet. So $60,000, $100,000 is just the start. That is not. We are far from a bubble. If it were to ever crash, and I do suspect that money one day in the 10-year future will have no value the way we understand it. One of the reasons why money is worth so much to us is because it costs so much to do anything. How much to drill oil or lithium or the things we need for products is so expensive because of how difficult it is to get lithium or oil or electricity. And I think as we become more technologically advanced, not just in the financial world, but in the technical world, just from technology and medicine, we will realize that money doesn't have any value aside from us being like, oh, great, thank you. and here's my token of gratitude. And that money will likely go back to where it was before. We're just giving people cacao seeds. Because your importance isn't about, like, we haven't had a structurally sound community for a long time where you are actually supported for the good that you do for your community. We herald people that create shitty products that do bad things to the community at large. And I think we're moving into an ecosystem where we won't allow that, because if money becomes worthless, like to the idea of, well, you know, we're just giving like each other tokens of thank you. It's like, okay, thank you. Like, here's some, you know, let me digress because I want to keep on this idea of value. I saved a woman's life once while she was drowning. I was surfing. I happened to notice the riptide coming up, and I saw that they were playing in a kind of unsafe area. So before she was even in trouble, I paddled over because I suspected she was going to be in trouble. So here, lo and behold, I get there. Her face is white. Her lips are already blue because I saw this danger coming way before she knew that she was even in danger. So I get there. You help them go through this process, and you save their life. You get them back to shore. They're so grateful. They're very thankful. You think they're going to offer me money? They're like, oh, how much can I pay you for that? No, like deep versions of gratitude and respect are usually beyond money. Maybe they were rich. I'm sure if they were rich and famous, they'd find a way to come try to give me money for saving their life. But you don't expect something from someone for saving their lives. You do it because it's the right thing to do. Now, again, that relates back to the way the business models will work. I think doing the right thing with your business model will be the only way to function. I believe if you have a business model that doesn't support the community, they will just come in and take you out.
And that's what I have a feeling about some of these crypto projects out there, especially Neo. There is the community involvement. They are actually using their half of the Neo tokens, not only for the development of technology, but also the development of the community, which is a beautiful thing.
I think the companies that focus on the conscious individuals that are in this scene and work with them as effectively as they can, they will be extremely successful because it is the people that drive this community, not the technology. And if the more we work together, the more successful everyone will be. So I think Neo's already done that. Like, you're proof of that. I'm proof of that. I invested in Ant shares originally because I saw value in what they were doing. As I learned more about the team, on the structural like the things that they were working on, we started talking about them. And we know that the people that invested in Neo didn't invest in Neo because of Neo. They invested in Neo because they believed in what I was saying, right? Or what you were saying, what you're telling your community. They're investing in you into Neo, if that makes sense, right? So this new peer-to-peer economy is something totally different, man. It's almost, it gives me chills. Unrecognized.
It definitely gives me chills. Well, Arcane Bear, I actually have another interview coming up in about 5 minutes. Do you have any last words for my viewers?
Yep, I just want to remember to give us those thumbs up, guys. It helps other people later on down the stream find ever information they're looking for. Also, remember to subscribe to Tyler's channel if you're new and give him the little bell hit. Also, if you haven't seen us before, you can find us on YouTube, Arcane Bear, and any of the social media accounts as well. One of my key points here, one of the things that we constantly reiterate at the Arcane Bear is that value, like real wealth and richness, starts first in your mind, your physical body. It then extends to your family, your friends, your community, your loved ones. And then if you get that in check, financial movement is easy. So remember where wealth and richness start is inside you. If you want a better life, it's inside you first.
And my viewers, definitely subscribe up top to this guy. He is one of the more knowledgeable people in the space that I've come across. He invested in Ant shares at $1.20. What else do you need to know? So,
yeah, and you know, we live out here in the jungle too. We always take people out on adventures. I do videos that are sometimes music, and we're working on some really cool projects that's going to, I think, blow everyone's mind. So if you're interested, I mean, today actually in the live stream, we talked about psychedelic mushrooms for 15 minutes with everyone. So you never know what you're going to get at the Arcane Bear.
My viewers are going to love you. My channel is very similar. I have my normal show, which I do in my house, but then I go out and explore, go across cities, and I don't just sit behind a computer like half those crypto YouTubers out there.
Brilliant. Well, Tyler, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I look forward to the next steps we make together. And I guess we'll see your guys' audience on the other side. Thanks for having me on your show today.
Peace out, man. Take her easy.